Debt is a two-edged sword. It might be handy for future investments, but you must eventually pay it off in order to develop net worth. When you're unable to do so, for whatever reason, you're trapped in a debt cycle that is difficult or impossible to break. For many consumers, borrowing is a way of life. Mortgages and school loans, which are frequently referred to as good debt, can consume a significant portion of your monthly income. When you add credit card debt and a new auto loan every few years, it's easy to become out of control. Payday loans and other forms of toxic borrowing nearly always result in a debt cycle. What exactly is a debt cycle? A debt cycle is characterized by continuous borrowing that leads to higher debt, rising costs, and eventual default. You go into debt when you spend more than you bring in. At some point, interest costs become a considerable monthly burden, and your debt grows even faster. You may even take out loans to pay off existing debts or simply to meet your mandatory minimum payments. It can sometimes be advantageous to obtain a new loan to pay off old debt. Debt consolidation can help you save money on interest while also simplifying your affairs. When you require a loan just to stay up or to fund your present spending rather than investing in your future through education and property, things get sticky. How to escape the debt trap? Recognizing that you have too much debt is the first step toward breaking free from the debt cycle. There's no need for judgment. The past is the past. Simply take a realistic look at the situation so you can begin taking action. Even if you can afford all your monthly loan payments, remaining in debt keeps you trapped in your existing lifestyle. If you need to service that debt, quitting your work for family reasons, changing careers, retiring eventually, or moving across the nation without a job will be nearly difficult. When you understand the need to get out of debt, you can begin working on solutions. Understand your financial situation. You must understand where you stand. How much money do you make each month, and where does it all go? It is critical to keep track of all your expenditures, so whatever it takes to make that happen, do it. You simply need to do this for a month or two to acquire useful data. Here are some strategies for keeping track of your expenses. Use a credit or debit card to keep an electronic record of every transaction. Bring a notebook and a pen with you. Maintain or create a receipt for every expense. Create an electronic list in the form of a text document or spreadsheet. Examine your bank accounts and credit card bills for several months, especially if you pay bills online, to ensure that you include expenses that don't arrive every 30 days, such as quarterly or annual payments. Balance your account at least once a month to avoid being caught off guard. Make a spending plan. Make a budget that you can live with now that you know how much you can afford to spend, your income, and how much you've been spending. Begin with your most basic needs, such as housing and food. Then consider other expenses to determine what fits. Budgeting for future goals and paying yourself first is ideal, but getting out of debt may be a more pressing necessity. Unfortunately, this may be the point at which you must make some painful changes. Look for ways to save money on groceries. Get rid of cable, get a lower mobile phone plan. Ride your bike to work, and other similar activities. This is the first step in living within your means. Remove the credit cards. Credit cards aren't strictly bad. In fact, if you pay them off every month, they're fantastic. But they make it far too easy to get into debt. The high interest rates on most cards mean you'll spend a lot more for anything you buy, and paying the minimum is almost always a recipe for disaster. Do whatever it takes to quit using them. Cut them up, freeze them in a bucket of water, whatever it takes. If you enjoy the convenience and automated tracking of using plastic, use a debit card linked to your checking account or a prepaid debit card that does not allow you to accumulate debt. Change your habits bit by bit. It's wonderful to achieve major wins, like reducing your car or canceling your pricey cable service. Small adjustments, though, do matter. Maybe you go out to lunch with coworkers a few times a week, like to eat out on weekends, and enjoy spending money on concerts and baseball games. While these are not negative expenses, they might devastate your budget if you go into debt to pay for them. If you're serious about getting out of debt, you must gradually change your habits. Begin by preparing your coffee at home and bringing your lunch to work and work your way up. Reduce your borrowing costs. Additional loans are dangerous, but one last one might be in order. If you have high interest credit card debt, even a large payment may not be enough to meet the interest payments each month. Debt consolidation with the appropriate financing can help more of your money go toward debt reduction. But you must be disciplined. Once you've paid off your debt, or more properly, moved the debt, you cannot spend on those cards again. A credit card balance transfer is one option to obtain a low-interest loan for a limited time. Just keep an eye out for the end of the promotional period, and internet lenders provide excellent rates on longer-term loans. Get a part-time job. Depending on your level of debt, a part-time job or side business may be necessary. Mowing lawns, pet sitting on weekends, driving for a ride-sharing firm, or making deliveries and other sharing economy jobs are all viable options. Working overtime at your existing job will help, especially if you're paid time and a half. And extra money you earn can be applied to your debt to help you pay it off faster. Getting out of the debt cycle. It is easier to avoid debt in the first place than it is to dig oneself out of a hole. Maintain your financial discipline once you've established a solid financial foundation. Avoiding debt is difficult with commercials bombarding you from the radio to your Instagram page, as well as the strain of keeping up with the Joneses. Live within your means. Just because you can afford it doesn't imply it's the best option. Purchase a home that you can comfortably afford, not one that you believe you'll be able to afford in 5 years. Spend with caution and use a conservative approach to money management. Living within your means prepares you for financial success now and in the future, as well as reduced worry if life throws you a curveball. Don't spend the maximum permitted. Similarly, keep in mind that lenders do not have your best interests at heart. Mortgage lenders frequently set a maximum house purchase price based on your debt-to-income ratios, but you can and should spend less. Auto sellers want to talk about the biggest monthly payment, but that's not the best method to buy a car. Avoid using credit cards to borrow. You should never use a credit card unless you can pay it off in full each month. Credit cards frequently contribute to excessive spending because you don't feel the money being spent. Make a budget and stick to it with cash or a debit card until you're satisfied with your spending. After you've gotten out of the debt cycle, you can still use credit cards for consumer protection and rewards. Make provisions for emergencies. People can go into debt owing to unforeseen situations rather than routine expenditures. While some debt is unavoidable, in many cases, it might have been avoided by planning ahead of time for emergencies and other unforeseen needs. Begin an emergency fund right away and strive to save 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses.